Roundabouts and Firewood, a mental health approach for Irish guys. I spell M, a child, N. That represents man. Muddy Waters. Part 2. Irish males are Irish males. Chapter 22. The Actual Problem. At this writing, I'm 57 years old. Here is my suicide list. 1. Age 15. An acquaintance in high school drove his motorcycle into a moving train. 2. Age 19. A longtime soccer teammate jumped off a bridge. 3 and 4. Age 20. Two people in college. One hung himself, the other drowned himself. 5. Age 22. Someone I went to high school with shot himself in his front yard while at university. 6. Age 36. My cousin shot himself in the head. 7. Age 41. Shortly after moving to Ireland, a friend of mine hung himself. 8. Age 44. Intentional overdose of a college acquaintance. 9. Age 45. Fiona's cousin, who I had met over the Christmas holidays, hung himself in January a few weeks later. 10. Age 49. A friend of Kian's mother, who I had met in Portland years before. 11. Age 50. The brother of one of my former secondary students. 12. Age 54. A friend of mine shortly after his 46th birthday. Kian is only 20, and his list is 3 to 6 depending how he's counting it. 3 that I mentioned in the introduction, and 3 on my list who he knew as a child. It doesn't matter how it's counted. 1 is too many. Before anyone's list grows, let's get to it. First, let's define the problem. From poison ass syndrome to almost knocking someone over as I skipped out of the Nut Grove shopping mall, and all the bits in between that I chose not to mention purely for the sake of brevity, I was telling the story of my own mental health issues. The problem is not mental health issues. They exist. There are plenty of them. But the big two are depression and anxiety. In any given population, and I mean any given population, a certain number of people will experience depression and anxiety of a debilitating nature. So something existing is not the problem. The problem is that the mental health issues experienced by the male population in this country are not being addressed like they should. To address how Irish males should address them, it is imperative that there is a solution that works for Irish males. We will start with a simple approach. Chapter 23. The Approach. In 2003, my cousin committed suicide. He was my age, but I hadn't seen him for 10 years. I hadn't seen his mother, my Aunt Roberta, for that same amount of time, so when I approached her at the funeral, I wasn't certain what to say. It turns out, I didn't have to say much. She was possessed by that manic energy that people are sometimes consumed by in order to get through a tragedy. Her task that day was to make it clear to everyone she spoke to that this should not have happened. Her son had been depressed and had not sought help, nor had any been offered. Why? She knew the answer, or at least she was convinced she did. Guys weren't talking about mental illness, and whatever shame or stigma that prevented her son from speaking about it led to the worst tragedy. He got into his truck and blew his brains out. That day, my Aunt Roberta went after it and let everyone know this was unacceptable. She said this has to stop because it could have been stopped if there had been communication. All the alternatives were better, and he needed to know that. No one needs to suffer alone. Her son had a job, hobbies, friends, and yet on his own he arrived at the point that ending it all was the best choice he could make. Arrive on his own is what his mother couldn't accept. He shouldn't have been on his own. What kind of culture, she asked, do we live in that this happens and continues to happen? From here on out, she explained, I want all this on the table. And if it bothers someone, well, then that's their problem. I'm his mother, and those days are done, she said in a controlled fury. When she finished saying it to me, she went on and delivered her speech to the next person who came up to her. I agree with my aunt that this has to change. However, I disagree that communication is the paramount issue. Ultimately, it comes down to one word: action. Action is the basis of the approach guys battling mental problems need to take. The approach. If you forget everything else I have written, please remember that when it comes to mental problems, there is only one approach. Fuck it before it fucks you. FIBIFY. Gentlemen, if you don't address your mental health issues, you, your friends, your family, and everyone gets fucked. It's FIBIFY or suffer. The good news is your culture has been preparing you for the FIBIFY approach, the culture of Irish guys.